it!
Hey, what's up, guys? I know it's been a minute, but I hope you're doing well, and I'm here to talk to you about UFC 277, which is going to feature two rematches, and it's going to be a champ versus champ headliner, which is going to be Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena for the women's bantamweight title, and then another rematch is going to be at the flyweight men's division, which is going to be Brandon Moreno versus Kai France. So along with those two big fights, the UFC is also bringing some familiar faces and fan favorites to Dallas, Texas, one of which is the heavyweight Derek the Black Beast Lewis, and another fan favorite, which is Alex Lionheart Smith, who is going to be taking on Magomed Anklev. Also, just a quick mention, my prelim fight to watch is going to be Drakkar Klose versus Rafa Garcia. All right, so no further ado, let's go ahead and get into this co-main event first, because this is the one I have picked for fight of the night, and it's going to be between Brandon, the baby assassin Moreno, versus Kai France. So I'm excited for this fight because the last time that these guys fought was back in 2019, and Brandon Moreno ended up winning via decision. So that was about 3 years ago, so that means that both of these guys have had enough time to fix some of their weaknesses, improve on some of their strengths, as well as just getting experience from being in there with tougher competition, top tier level difficult opponents. And yeah, it's going to be awesome to see these guys collide, because both of them know the implications if they both get a win in this fight is going to lead to a title shot. They both put on stellar performances before, and they both have the credentials to back it up. Brandon Moreno, as we know, is coming off of the 3-trilogy saga that he had with Deiveson Figueiredo, the current champ, and he ended up losing in the last time that they fought because of a decision, which was a very controversial one. Meanwhile, Kai France has been putting on an impressive win streak, and he's been able to win in a multitude of different ways. So he's won in his last outing against Askarov via decision. Before that, in 2021, he won 2 fights via TKO, one of which was my favorite performance from him was against Cody Garbrandt. And yeah, everybody thought, well, at least I believe, that Cody Garbrandt was going to drop down in weight and just run through Kai France. And Kai France had to kind of play gatekeeper and let Cody and everybody else know that the flyweights weren't nothing to mess with. You know, they were not to be taken lightly. You're not just going to drop weight and come run through the division. You know, he stood his ground and was able to prove that there's a reason and a craft to being at the flyweight division with the different types of pressure, pace, and especially the speed. It seemed like every time Garbrandt and Kai France engaged, that Kai was just a little bit ahead of him, you know, and Cody Garbrandt is renowned for his movement and his speed. But yeah, it just showed the different types of class and the different types of talents that the flyweights had. So going into this fight, I'll get right onto it. I think that Brandon Moreno is going to have an advantage being in there with Deiveson Figueiredo. As experienced and as vicious as Deiveson is, Kai matches that intensity. You know, he is in your face at all times. He's not shying away from any damaging shots you may hit him with, and he's willing to walk through fire in order to put the pressure on you. I think where Brandon Moreno is going to start to pull away, it's going to be in the later rounds. We haven't seen Kai go into those 5-round fights and being pushed to his absolute limit. So I feel that Moreno has the advantage the longer that this fight goes, but Kai France definitely has the ability to make the most out of his opportunities, which is going to be very, very essential for him to do if he wants to have a chance against Brandon Moreno. You got to force Brandon to make mistakes. You also have to try to chip away at his confidence, because both of these guys are very strong-willed. So whoever breaks or doubts themselves for a second is going to have some very, very extreme difficulties to stay in control of the fight. So Kai, I think that for him to be successful, he's going to have to be very spontaneous, very sporadic with some of his attacks. I think he is faster than Brandon Moreno, and I also think he's faster than Deiveson Figueiredo, but it's just the angles he attacks at that are so different. For Moreno to be successful, I think that he's going to have to fight this fight at multiple different levels, try to get Kai down early. If he can, try to contain him as much as he can while he's on the ground, as well as Brandon Moreno's accuracy is going to have to be on point. You know, knowing where to throw and when to throw is going to be a big part for him, because Kai France brings it, and Brandon Moreno is going to have to be able to endure a lot, but also give him something to think about, you know, throwing the takedown. Not every takedown has to land, but at least to make sure that Kai France is worried about it. But overall, I see this ending in a 4th-round submission victory from Brandon Moreno, and hopefully he gets that title shot for a 4th fight against Deiveson Figueiredo. All right, getting into the main event. So back in December when these two first met, the narrative of the story was Amanda Nunes had been dominating the featherweight and bantamweight women's divisions, and Juliana Pena was just going to be a run through for her. You know, Amanda Nunes had been so dominant that when they were running out of names, Juliana Pena had been calling for Amanda Nunes for a few fights, and they decided to finally give her an opportunity. And I remember looking at the odds, and yeah, Juliana Pena was definitely going against every single odd you could think about. And Amanda Nunes presented this phenomenal essence or aura that she was the GOAT. I consider her one of the greatest fighters of all time, and her resume definitely backed it up. And Juliana Pena had been saying in her post-fight interviews, at her media day interviews, that she had something that Amanda Nunes just wasn't ready for. But it's kind of something we hear a lot whenever somebody is going to step in there against such a dominant champion like Amanda Nunes. But getting into the fight itself, the first time that these two met in the first round, it was the Amanda Nunes show by far. Nunes was controlling the pace, controlling the range. She was eating up the legs of Juliana Pena, and she even managed to get a few knockdowns, like I said. And this is where I think the fight started to shift, because once Amanda Nunes knocked Juliana Pena down for the second time, she actually engaged with her on the mat. And yeah, it probably wasn't the way Juliana Pena expected to get her to the mat, but still, she was grappling, which was a big plus for Juliana Pena. So although Amanda Nunes was in dominant positions and she was pressuring Juliana Pena on the ground, it was still hard for her to contain Juliana Pena in those positions. It wasn't so easy just being on top of her. There was even times where Pena was threatening her with a Kimura grip and trying to get the submission. So it was not only physically wearing on Amanda Nunes, but it was also mentally wearing on her, and she knew that she was safe for the most part, but still there's parts of her that just seemed like she was just a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit more uncomfortable than what we're used to seeing her whenever she gets taken down. So in between rounds, going into the second one, just like many others have said, like Chael and whatnot, I think that Amanda Nunes found herself in a tougher fight than what she was expecting. And whenever that happens, it's kind of like being thrown into a pool of cold water. You're just, your body's going to react. You're mentally going to react emotionally. You're kind of just trying to gather yourself. And yeah, although Amanda Nunes did win the first round, going into the second one, it was a different story completely. So in the second round, I will say that Pena displayed ultimate mental and physical toughness and overcoming the adversity and the pressure that Amanda Nunes was putting on her. She weathered the storm, she answered the call, and was able to stand toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes and not break, which is a big part of what Amanda Nunes does to a majority of her opponents. And as the fight continued, Juliana Pena was still getting hit. It wasn't like Amanda Nunes didn't have anything for her. But with every jab that Pena was throwing and every combo that was landing, it seemed like she was gaining more and more confidence. And you started to see this shift of a fighter who was trying to survive to a fighter who had full confidence in themselves. So there's a lot of folks out there that are calling this fight a fluke. But this was not a fluke. Absolutely not. An upset, yes. A big, shocking upset, but definitely not a fluke. This wasn't like it was just a random head kick that landed and put Amanda Nunes out, or submission that was just thrown out of desperation, or some kind of accident. This was Juliana Pena getting off the stool in the second round, standing toe-to-toe with one of the greatest strikers that we have seen in the women's division, and lasting for about 3+ minutes until she actually caught Amanda slipping. Pena went out there to fight the champion. She fought like a champion, and now she is the champion. And yeah, she proved me wrong by far. I couldn't really even describe the jaw-dropping effect that I had. And I just remember watching the fight with one of my friends, and he was just like, be a dog, be a dog. And yeah, man, Juliana Pena was an absolute dog in that fight. She was willing to take whatever it was going to take for her to leave that ring with the championship. So going into this one, the main question is, can she do it twice? Can she survive the onslaught? Is Amanda Nunes going to go in there in a complete berserker rage mode like Wolverine and just unleash on her? The other question is, who has prepared more to do more? The last fight went for 2 rounds. Going into this one, I don't think we're going to go only 2 rounds. I think it's going to go for a while. I think that Amanda Nunes has done some changes, and this loss has lit a fire underneath her. She has come out to say that she had some issues with her last camp and whatnot. Okay, and she's changed some nutritionists and some cardio and conditioning coaches. And so we'll see if it paid off, right? She's seen the things that she feels like needed to change, and we'll see what Juliana Pena has brought to the table since then. I don't think Pena is going to be that lackadaisical. I think that she understands that she proved everybody wrong once, and to solidify it, she's going to have to do it again. In this fight, I think that Amanda Nunes is going to have to manage her gas tank a lot better. I think that she may even have to pace the fight out. I think in the last fight, she was able to get Pena on the ground, and maybe she just saw the finish and went for it, and she was expecting Pena to crumble under the pressure just like her other opponents, just like I said. But I think with this one, she's going to have to be able to win this fight in multiple different options if need be. Obviously, the number one rule with going against Juliana Pena is that Amanda Nunes cannot end up on the ground with her. And even if she is in dominant positions or not, do not end up on the ground with Juliana Pena. And on the other side, I think that Pena's going to have to go out there and start off a lot cleaner, a lot crisper, which I think she will. That first round against Amanda Nunes, I feel like she may have gotten a little starstruck. Those lights may have been a little bit too bright. But being able to have the confidence of winning the first fight and then already being used to the build-up and the events leading up to the fight may give her a little bit more comfort into finding her rhythm and herself in that first round a lot better than she did in the last fight. So overall, I think we see a more focused and determined Amanda Nunes on Saturday night. She may have a chip on her shoulder, but if she can manage her emotions and not get too ahead of herself, I think that she can regain her title via third round TKO. Also, guys, I want to thank y'all for the support. I had a pancreation fight on July 9th. Didn't get the win, ended up losing via decision. But I have another match coming up on August 27th at the Warlord Invitational X. So, super excited for that. Thank y'all. Hope y'all are taking care of yourselves. Other than that, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all get to enjoy the fights. I think we're in for some really great ones. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, share, comment, anything like that. Let me know who you got picked. And if you haven't, please follow the Combat Contact Twitter page. As always, guys, stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.